let's call the meeting to order.
Yeah, we're all.
I brought it in the front, I left it on.
Here, if we can give Anna one of these.
Thank you.
Okay, what?
So the meeting is called to order. David Kelsey cannot be with us tonight and has asked that Fred step in to his place. That doesn't need a vote, that happens. So the first item on the agenda is discussion of capital financing and possible action. And what I'm thinking about is whether we want to take a look at the mill rate calculations first. But maybe not, because the mill rate calculation is going to be informed by what the future debt obligations are. So I distributed last night a little projected cash flow. If anybody doesn't have one of these, we pass it around again. And then David Kelsey also.
Oh, I sent you I did send an email for you to check over.
Yeah, I'm not going to go over that revised one. But this is another document that David provided that I think is relevant. So, pass that down.
Yeah, if we can. The sheriff is not enough. I think it's the same as last night. Let me see if the numbers match.
Yeah, but this is what he was working on.
This was from last night.
Yeah,
And now we're getting another.
this is what the projects are.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to do before we get into the mill rate calculation.
I think that's yours.
I think
That's fine,
yeah, I just took 2 minutes.
Oh, okay, then I'll, thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
Does anybody need a copy?
I've got that from yesterday.
This is what he had projected with the others. Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay, so most of you were here last night, but not all of you. So if we just start with this sheet, all I want to do with these 2 sheets, which are by no means precise or accurate, but they'll give us a feeling for what's coming down the pipe. So the sheet that you're looking on includes...
Which the title is Old Line 5-Year Expense Prediction.
Yep, that's the one. It includes the senior center bonds on below the blue line. See that, starting with 59,000. You know, and these numbers are off a little bit, but order of magnitude. And then 82.2% of one of the scenarios in the Board of Education proposed bonding. It's so-called Scenario 4D. And so this is all new money. In other words, this is not money that has been included in existing or prior budgets. And as Barry pointed out last night, the 25-26 Board of Education budget of $3.6 million, and this is just old line share. This is the bump up for old line share. And then it goes down to 2.4. None of us at the meeting last night understand why is there that particular bump for next year, and maybe we can even it out. But regardless of whether we can even it out or not, when you look at the next 4 years, there's a whole bunch of money, right, that we're going to need to finance our share of the Region 18 renovations as well as of the senior center. Any questions on this?
This is assuming how much bonding for the senior center then?
$4 million over 20 years.
Okay.
So then take a look at the other thing that Dave put together. What he tried to do was to take a look at the other capital projects that are coming down the pipe and compare that to the reserves that we have now and see what else do we need. You know, Andy, you have reviewed this and you have some comments on it that I'd like you to share, because some of these numbers are probably, or maybe off, but still the order of magnitude is instructive. I think that the senior center number is close enough. The 4 million or 4.2 million is more or less what Old Line is going to have to pay for the senior center. But the Halls Road, let me not speak for you. What are your comments on these numbers?
On the Halls Road, I guess I hadn't seen the 5 million before. The number that I've seen is the money for the Bow Bridge.
And that's it, the 3+
And that's really all I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And if the total for all that is really 5 million, it's like...
But the Bow Bridge is certainly not.
No, that was 1.3,
Sidewalk.
1.6.
Sidewalks were estimated at 2. We had a meeting this morning.
Okay.
And then
So
also,
this 5 million is high, but maybe you're talking 4 million or 3.5.
or 4.2,
Okay.
maybe.
What did you say?
Well, I guess
Let's not go low.
But what's your estimate for the Bow Bridge and the sidewalks to it?
I think the bridge, they're thinking it's 2 million.
Okay. So that's
But those are estimates, and the sidewalk estimate had come in, was estimated a number of years ago, and they told Edie to think about a 5% increase over the number of each year that she's had the estimate.
Mm-hmm.
So we did do some sleuthing today, but there are some grants out there that we can apply for 25.
I mean, I guess timing, with us having our town current debt falling off and looking at the bubble in fiscal 26, 27, and 28, what does the timing need to be for the sidewalks in the area? Is that something that has to happen in the next, or should happen in the next 3 to 5 years when you push it off? Is it something, certainly the townspeople have to vote on it, they would anyway. Do they have an appetite for it when it's going to get laid on top of their taxes that they're going to be paying for things that they've already voted for, the bulk of the senior center and all of the 57 million. My other comment was, and we found this out, the Grassy Hill Road Bridge, there's $954,000 already in the fund. And Martha got good news today. She just told me that perhaps
We can,
money from the state, which I think was about 600,000,
which we have
we may be able to get that back. So that takes care of, that was an emergency that needed to be fixed. Right.
3 years ago?
19, no, it was.
Oh, the
I know,
first time.
The first time, because I remember Bonnie
First
told me
time.
when I was in Colorado. And so that was 2018, when we had that heavy rain, and, it was like, oh my God, we gotta do this, we gotta, and it's done just fine since then, but obviously something's going to have to be done. And my other comment about the EMS center was, does every town need an emergency management director? Is that something, I know there are currently, I think, 169 emergency management directors in the state of Connecticut. East Line just built their police station for about $7 million. That's where their EMS is located. Is there any way, why do we need a $4 million?
I don't think it's going to be 4 million.
Well, but I think Dave was looking at 2.
2.
I think that also Dave was looking at it.
Dave Roberts was looking at 2.
Right,
Dave
but
Kelsey.
Dave Kelsey is looking at this, and we've seen so many estimates and so many projects that nothing is coming in under.
Right.
They're at least 20, 25% over. So I think Dave Kelsey's numbers are realistic, is my point.
Well, and whether they're realistic or whether they're up by 20%, 30%, 40% doesn't really matter, I think, for our decision tonight. Notably, these do not include the Region 18 renovations, right? So this is just kind of all-line projects that may be on the burner that we have to consider. Let me direct your attention to the second to last line that says June 30, 2023 general fund on the sign. So that 10,883 was our reserve balance as of the end of the last fiscal year. Do you have any new information on that, Anita?
No, the auditor still has not gotten
Okay,
anything to us. We should have it within 2 weeks.
that's fine. But let's just assume that's right, and again, order of magnitude is good enough. Then the 46 million is his estimate, not of next year's budget, but the year after that, going up a bit. And then he's using the 15% number, which has been passed around a bit about the minimum amount of the total budget that you should have as a reserve. And that's what he's calling the prudent measure. So subtract the 6.9 from the 10.8, you have his potential available of 3.9, right? So if you go back up above, you'll see he has assumed available 3.9. So basically he's saying if the town's projects over, say, 3 or 4 years are going to aggregate $15 million, and we have about $4 million in the kitty, that means we don't have, the balance that would need to be, he said, grants or borrowing of 5.6, and this is after he's assumed we're going to discount by 50% 3 of those projects. This is just a back of the envelope, frame of reference. Now, I would argue with Dave that the $5,629,000 has to be financed with grants, borrowings, or increased taxes, right? If we increase the mill rate beyond what a particular year's budget requires, we can begin to fund the future needs. But really, my point is, and I'm going to entertain questions, is just to begin this conversation about what we're going to need in future years, and we don't know with any specificity, but we know it's a lot.
And I guess, I looked at this earlier today, and in the past, we've, as I said last night, we've taken money from our undesignated fund and put it towards the budget to keep the mill rate down. This might be a year that we don't do that, where we kind of save our money for more of the Region 18 than our expenses. I mean, I think our potential projects are manageable, and I think, if we can get if it truly is $15 million worth of projects that we know about right now, there could be other things that come up, but between money we already have set aside, almost $1 million for one of them, fundraising that may occur with the senior center, and grants for Grassy Hill Road, Halls Road, and in the EMS center, I think those could be pretty significant. But I think it is a good idea to have the number in mind of almost $6 million that we may have to find a way to pay for, but it's much better than $15 million.
And I completely agree with Andy's approach, which is to say we don't know how much money we're going to need in the future, but it's a bunch. And the relevance of that tonight is what do we do for the 24-25 budget?
Well, I think coming at that also from another angle is that a small bump in the mill rate in a couple years is probably preferable to a giant bump in the mill rate in another year.
Well, little bumps along the way.
Right.
The reval will throw the cards off in the air for some people and change it. Or potentially, and probably more so, obviously, the people in our beach communities than anybody else. That's typically where it hits. And that will impact us next year. If reval happens.
Next year.
Next year it'll hit along with the school project.
The only project that I don't see included on here at all that we haven't really talked about much is the sewer project. Is there going to be any expectation on the town at some point in the next few years too?
Right.
And is the EMS center a nice to have, or is that a requirement? Like
Right.
some,
It's not a requirement.
some,
It's
okay.
Good question.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
which one do you want me to answer on which time?
Well, it sounds like EMS is a nice to have,
All right.
would love it, but if
Well,
it
the
can't
EMS,
happen.
basically, because of the number of people that are required to be in the room, it's a little tight on the current one. My understanding is the funding as we have is about $735,000 given. We're going out to RFQ requests for qualifications. The reason for that is because if we have an architect design firm, but could also be a construction firm, they won't have to go out for a double bid. They'll just have one. But that's not to say that they won't. They're just looking at it from that option. So that is going out tomorrow.
Is this still just so that project is just the 1,200 square foot addition?
Yes. It's a
Okay.
1,200 square foot addition, and Millstone will pay for most of the instruments and the equipment in it, not the furniture as far as chairs and things like that, but the actual equipment. will be paid
And not
for.
the construction, not the building itself.
No. So I don't know what it takes to build a concrete block
So I guess just looking at that, I mean, there's office space everywhere. Commercial office space
Yes.
that is readily available at low rates. Is there something off in the Hatchetts Hill area that's well away from the shoreline, that's independent of the Boughton Fire Department, that could be, especially where Millstone will not pay for construction,
Right.
that could be done for much less money?
Just for even if
something that
it's
is,
for the time being.
I guess it's an insurance policy, it's something you need to have in case something happens, and when we've had storms where it's been activated, we've had other situations, no doubt, but it sounds like a lot of money for 1,200 square feet,
And
when
also,
you could buy that or lease it, somewhere.
haven't we been able to use the senior center in the past for power failures, respite centers,
respite.
respite? So I would like to think that the emergency operations center isn't growing to be the size that, hey, we need a respite center here too, because then we're duplicating our spaces. We don't need it.
They don't go
No,
together.
I know they don't, but
I mean,
projects more.
I think Town Hall used to be the
Respite,
center.
the emergency center, yeah.
Before they moved to Boughton Road.
And I think the bottom line is, we need another visit with Dave to explain to us the necessity and the urgency of this, and then to discuss with him alternative ways of accomplishing the site.
Exploration.
I mean, I guess it's good to look at town-owned land, to put a site like that on town-owned land. I mean, we talked about at one point, why shouldn't it be adjacent to the police department? And there's a rational reason, because that's near the shoreline, and that could be an area that would be flooded. We had the lot that the town purchased, where the bus stop is now. That was a thought at one point to build a little expanded police department and EMS. But again, close to the shoreline, doesn't make sense. If there was truly a big storm, that's not where you want to be. But you look out off Hatchetts Hill Road,
Michael
there's
Leach
all
has,
kinds of stuff.
and Ken Vista Drive, Michael
Right.
Leach has a number of spaces that are sitting empty.
Am I right in assuming that the new development on 156, just up from the police station, isn't for the EMS center? Does anybody know
Too
what
close
it
to
is?
the-
What's that, storage?
Storage building.
No, well, they haven't, they started to clear because of Columbus Avenue, they were digging up to the water line from Miami Beach.
So
They needed
the-
to put soil somewhere, so they cleared a patch. Then, once the trucks were in, they
Cleared
just
a
started
lot,
going.
And
I guess we
think
have no
remember that there was
zoning.
a zoning controversy about the storage center,
Exactly.
but they got the approval.
No.
No, they're suing the town.
Oh, good.
Twice.
I mean, they're
Two
suing the
lawsuits
land
on
and suing the town at the
Correct.
same time?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right, so, but
Anyway.
sewers,
So,
any
yes, something's going on there. It's too
financial
close to the
obligation?
shore
That's not for us.
Yeah,
No.
exactly.
Okay,
All right,
so.
the other option, was your other question, was grass?
Sewers.
Is there any potential financial obligation?
Of course. They assured, Steve Tsunami was in today. It's looking like we wouldn't.
Okay.
And Dave Kelsey mentioned that last night too. He made a comment, something about sewers. But they are paying off their bills with their bonding that they took out. I'm still questioning that whole thing and how it came about, but I'm getting there, wrapping my head around it. So,
But they've excluded that on the assumption that we do not have to fund the sewer
Okay.
project.
that would be solely to the residents in the Shore Soundview area. And then, I don't know how that's gonna go over.
So
It's a very long project.
before we go to Anita's documentation for the mill rate, just look back on this 5-year thing and go down to the total expenditures with estimated debt, a third of the way down. The first number is $42,901,000.
897.
No,
I have the one from last night.
oh, you have the new one? All right, so that's a little bit different. My number is 42.9. And let me tell you that this year's total expenditure budget is $40,972,000. So the coming year is about $2 million more. And then the year after that is up almost $5 million, and then that holds constant and so on. These numbers are inflated a little bit because of an assumed 3% increase in expenses, which may or may not happen. But again, it's just order of magnitude. And these numbers are exclusive of the projects that Dave was talking about. So Dave's projects are exclusive of the Region 18 new financing, and so they're additive, but not on a one-to-one basis. So as I said before, we're going to need a bunch of money. Any questions on this kind of background? Then let's look at this, and do you want to walk us through this, Anita?
The first page is basically the mill rate. I went through all the different ones. There was, the Board of Ed, we got their final numbers, they put that in. This is everything with all adjustments, all of them for every account, everything has been approved. And if I use all the numbers, it comes out to a 0.91 increase, and that's without borrowing or using any fund balance money. The 1602373 is in the back of your, is from the assessors, like the second to last page. That's where that number comes from. The last page is the updated Board of Ed paperwork.
Okay.
Which we received yesterday.
Then there's a mini worksheet of the capital plan, the expenses, and an updated revenue. So you're all behind. So that's everything. The second one is the same thing with the mill rate, but DJ did ask me included the $65,000 for the first interest payment if we bonded, and that would bring us up basically 0.04 or 0.05 for rounding. If you included the 65, but that wasn't approved.
So the only difference between page number 1 and page number 2 is an additional $65,000 of expense.
Right, and that's what it says. On
Got it.
the top.
Okay.
So it's the 65,000, that would be the interest.
Okay.
Then I also, if you look down the bottom, I put down if you did want to use anything from surplus, it gives you percentage differences, like 90 cents, 71 cents, 65 cents, 58 cents, 52 cents, 39, and that's per $1,000. Currently, right now, if your house is assessed at $500,000, the additional tax at what we have would be $450.21 approximately for the year.
You're talking next year?
Yes.
Okay.
425, yes.
Yeah, and it's 400 and what?
I got $450.21 approximately, because it's fraction.
And that would be at the 24.45 mill rate?
That's at the 24.4.
Okay.
That's without the
Okay,
65.
without the 65, okay.
So an increase of almost $50 per homeowner if they have a $500,000.
That would be, if your
Okay.
assessed value is 500,
Yep,
That would be your taxes or the increase of?
that would be the increase.
increase in your tax.
Right.
Is that on?
For 500.
No, I did, because I wasn't
Yep,
sure if you
it
guys
would be
were gonna change any.
$450.
I did
so
make a
it's
few
like
copies that you guys
$43 a
could
month
pass
tax
around.
increase of the
So it is there off to the side, but I wasn't sure,
So
do I make that many
$500
copies, and then what if you
Yeah,
guys
you're talking
change
Well,
the
no,
number?
So,
less than
But
$50.
let me ask, this. I'm looking at the net number versus the gross number.
Okay.
Right.
Fixed
Yeah.
income.
The net number
It's not
is
fixed income,
what we
it's the one
need
that's
to
sunk into
collect,
our
but then we have to add to the net number the abatements that we're not
or
going
they
to
just earn
collect.
more money.
So we have to really collect the gross number of 38.5,
Right.
right?
Well, no, that's it, you go to 38,397,110 is the plug on the revenue side, and then the 38,512 is basically how the mill rate calculates. It's in the formula.
Well, but don't we have to have a mill rate that will generate 38.512?
Yes, that's the
Mhm.
That's the
24.4.
That's what the-
24.4.
That's the 24.4.
Okay. So when you have down below the net property tax requirement, I don't know why that's there, but regardless, the 24.4 gives us a 38.5,
So we're talking about gross.
Right.
24.4.
okay?
If I could just interject, I don't know if how this plays in, but I will tell you that Suzanne, after going to a couple of tax collector conferences, and she's taking classes, of course, to be certified, realizes that most of the towns do not have suspense lists like ours. And they go after people. And they use a collection agency, and the collection agency has 3 months. They don't charge us, they charge the
Right.
person.
Yeah, we get 100% of the taxes owed, the collection agency gets a fee on top of it.
That's right.
Required.
Right.
So Suzanne is thinking that that's what she needs to do
Yeah.
instead
Yeah.
of the suspense list.
Absolutely.
And she said you can go back a number of years. Most of it, she said, is cards, but she said, look, every penny counts.
So you know
So
what
that's usually
the-
1% or so, or 1.5% that goes uncollected.
Right.
It's a substantial amount.
Yes,
so
it
it's
And
worth,
we've never gone after these people.
No.
But
I
after
don't-
15
okay.
years, it's a write-off. We have up to 15 years to go after them. After 15 years, you cannot go after them.
Our collection rate is usually better than 98.5.
Yeah.
We used to budget at 97.5 or 98, and last year was the first year we went to 98.5, because our collection rate was usually 99% or better.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's not,
It's
not
still-
quite that bad.
It's still
No,
a
it
significant
sounds
number
good.
that we should go after. It's our money.
do we sell that list? Is that how it works?
Right.
How many people get to use that list? Do you pick one vendor
I think you-
and that's it?
Yes.
You do.
Okay,
So
great.
she's already reached out to a couple of the vendors
Perfect.
to see what is how they go about it. But, and she's also sent out her list just this week, I think, went out to say, okay, we asked you for your second round of taxes and now you're really late.
But Martha, do you know what the total amount on the suspense list is?
Not yet, because she won't have that generated. I think that's at your June meeting or your first meeting.
June, she does the per
I don't remember.
I think it's at your next, the
No,
next
it gets circulated at a Board of
Yeah,
Finance.
she does, but they normally do it in June.
June.
And June, though, you have to purge anything over 15 years, because you can't go after someone.
Right.
But she can go back multiple years to collect, so while it might only be a few hundred thousand in a given year, if there's 15 years, we
accumulation.
can go back.
If you
And
have 15 years,
is it
it's 300. Well,
Is it
we have
15 years
6
plus
months.
interest?
We have nothing to lose.
Worth going back.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
if they haven't, but.
If they want to do it, let them do it.
Yeah, if they want to do it, I guess.
Right, we're not putting time into
Currently,
it.
last year, you had approximately 600,000 that was past due.
Right, not necessarily uncollected, but past due.
That's 1 year.
At the end of the
That's
year-
from 1 year.
No, that was the total, it was 600,000. It was 600,000, because I balanced the tax.
So that's from all the years.
It was per her, yes, per the.
Whatever her years included. Yeah.
Yes.
Because I don't know if that's
That's not 10
suspense
years
list.
though.
Suspense list you write off, that's different. The
Yeah.
suspense list is a write-off, and that's usually the purge of 15 years.
Right.
But your suspense, I don't here you might do it differently, I'm
I
not
think she
sure
does,
what
I think it has been done differently.
I've
remember what
never
it was.
done
I
it
feel
here,
like
in other places, you put it in a special account.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Right.
Like, it wasn't like-
And a lot of people were dead.
40 people, like, it was like a lot of people.
Carry percent on a balance sheet, but I did not see that.
So, you know,
So
you,
that's worth chasing, okay.
well, I mean, you may have thought of this, but with the history of not going after people, some people would just have
No.
assumed they're gonna be okay.
Mhm.
So maybe letting them know, and also maybe offering an amnesty period, maybe that would help. I don't know.
Or no interest or no penalty.
No, you
Right.
can't.
You can't do that?
By state statute, you have to charge interest.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
We'll give people warning to say, in 3 months, we're gonna start this.
You can give a warning and say that if you pay now, it's not worth going to the life.
Okay.
Well, I think, we all think we should absolutely go after
Whatever we can get.
go after whatever we can get, but it's not gonna solve this problem. I'm just trying to see if we carry that on our balance
I'm
sheet.
gonna take notes, I'm not doing
No,
much.
there
I'm not
wasn't
gonna
a
pick much.
percent, there was,
Michelle's minutes in mine.
Oh, I forgot.
but I don't know how they do it on the
Okay.
tax side, that's something I have to get with. She was new, I was new, so we haven't, I don't know what they did in June of last year.
So let's focus on the question at hand, which is, what's the aggregate amount of tax we want to collect, and therefore the mill rate that we need to charge? I'm with Andy, that I would like to not draw down on our reserves this year. I would like to go up on the mill rate. Anita's numbers say about 0.9 mils, I'd go up 1 mil. Throwing that out. Now, 1 mil is about 4%, and inflation has been 3 or 4%, and our budget is up that much, right? So in the absence, well, and the grand lift is up just a little bit, 0.5%.
That helps.
So that's not gonna generate, enough additional revenue.
Okay, so this came down, no.
So BJ, your proposal is 24.5 for the mill rate then?
I'm sorry?
24.5.
24.5 is your proposal?
That's the 24.
So are you making that a motion?
No,
We're not, we can't set the mill rate now.
Oh, okay.
The mill rate gets set in May,
Oh,
after
after the
the
vote.
budget is voted by the townspeople.
But you have to
I
give them
think-
an idea of
Well,
what.
I think what the motion has to be really is whether or not we're taking any money out of our undesignated fund and applying it to this budget, or just letting this budget fly. And let BJ present it at the hearing on
Right.
the 15th.
Yeah, and so the public would know that this budget will result in
Right.
a mill rate of X,
Right,
which will have an impact of Y on a house of
Right.
300,
Right.
500.
right, right.
I have a quick question. So I know that last year, some money was taken out of surplus to,
Right, 600.
Okay. Do we have any historical information as far as how, we didn't do it the year before?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Yes, we do it every year.
We do it every
600, 600, 400.
Right.
Is that pretty consistent? what we've
It's been pretty
doing?
consistent, I think it's been as high as 800,000.
Yeah, I
Right.
remember.
Yeah.
We know that 4
Yep.
years ago.
Yeah, and the reality is, if you look at the audits, we don't end up needing it, because we underspend our true
Right,
budget, we
right.
don't end up, but
So that money is
we
going
budgeted,
back into the
it
surplus.
ends up, it never goes, it comes out of the undesignated fund, because it's never needed.
Right.
And the other thing, as I mentioned last night, we, at town meeting this year, voted on fewer expenditures. We've had years where we voted and spent $300,000, $400,000 at town meeting for things that happened in the middle of the year. Now, of course, we're gonna have a vote next month, or later this month, on the senior center, and it's not determined if we're gonna take any money out of surplus to fund the senior center, or if we're gonna bond the $4 million. I mean, that's a kind of a separate, sort of a separate.
You know,
Not really, because
I do also, you know what, I did just want to say, there
Yep.
is one more project that's sort of pending, but it's waiting for Amtrak approval, but it is the Cross Lane underpass. And that Ed was just going to start digging, and I strongly suggested we get an engineer to check it because of stability issues. and Amtrak appreciated that. So, they're supposed to be putting a new pipe in underneath that, and then Amtrak's gonna go in and do their shoring up. They're gonna pay for all that. But they've got some stuff to do over there, but they're waiting for us to dig. I don't know what that would cost. The last estimate, the last, bid that we got was about $55,000 from B&L. But I'm just letting you know that is also
on the
The
radar.
other thing that comes up a lot is the crib
Yes.
and what,
Yeah, I know, and that's coming up too.
yeah.
Martha's gonna fix that.
Yeah.
Rhonda?
I got a shovel.
Personally, on the weekend. I know we raised the collection rate last year, but it's still typically more than this. So next year, if we continue to collect over 99%, if we budget in a collection rate of 98.75 or 98.8, it adds a significant amount of money to the budget. So, and since I would be interested to see, maybe Anita, for next year, what the last 10 years of collection rates have been, because that'll go through and see between recessions and booms where people are. I think we are really lucky in that there's a lot of mortgages in this town, so most people's taxes get paid. So we have a really high collection rate. And if we're really trying to figure this out rather than taxing people more when we're already getting that money anyway, maybe we just take a look at that next year when those big bumps are coming.
Totally.
So for next year.
Yeah, I would not say for this year just because we're trying to find some money this year to save, but like looking at this and saying.
That's another way we can soften.
We can find some.
Softball.
$2 million.
We really just have two decisions to make at this point in time. One is the mill rate, and the second, and by this point in time, I mean generally, is what to do to finance the senior center, right? Because the bills for the senior center are gonna start coming in a couple of months, and Martha just hates cutting the checkbook. So I'd like to have that discussion when we finish the mill rate, because it's a separate discussion, except to the extent that Anita has included $65,000 on page 2, which also would be covered by a 1 mil increase. Yes.
So I think
Go ahead.
I think you said that the motion you'd be looking for here would be on whether or not we're taking money from surplus.
Yes.
I mean, it seems like most
I think
people
we're in
are.
agreement.
Yeah.
I don't
I
think
think
that's
the motion
controversial.
to not take any money from surplus for the 2024-2025 budget.
Any discussion? Any discussion?
If I was to take this that we just played around with and drop it to if I increase it to 98.75, it would drop by 0.06 mil.
We're not talking about the mill rate.
Yeah.
This motion is just regarding
Yeah, no, I just want
taking money from surplus on the table, motion seconded.
I'm sorry, can you tell me who made the motion?
Andy.
Andy. And who second?
Ken Thompson.
Thank you.
I've got it.
Oh, you're doing them for me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
There notes afterwards.
And don't fiddle
Thank
around
you.
with the numbers. So, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Any abstentions? That motion passes. Okay, so having decided that, the mill rate kind of is what it is. Although, if it's 0.9 mils, I'm gonna recommend we round it up to 1. But we don't have to decide that tonight.
How much of a difference is that in the revenue?
Is what?
Going, a point,
1/10 mil?
yeah, I mean, it's
And I think a mill is maybe 1.8 million or something.
180,000 or something like that.
Give me that calculation.
So, BJ, are you making a motion, or?
No.
Because you said earlier there were two decisions you had to make tonight, the mill rate and how to finance.
Yeah, the latter isn't really a decision, but a discussion that I think we should pursue after last night's meeting with Barry.
And you were saying the difference between page 1 and page 2, is that page 2 includes
65,000 of interest next
that we would
year.
have to pay if we finance the senior center?
Correct.
Yeah, I didn't, my motion was just.
Doesn't matter.
No, I understand that, but
Yeah,
it's been mentioned a couple times.
Yeah.
Keep getting confused.
it does say on top there.
But TJ said earlier, he proposed a decrease of 1.1 mil, which is 4%, to 24.5.
That's just, we don't have to do the mill rate at this meeting.
Actually, we can't do the mill rate.
Nope.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, it impacts it because it's what BJ has to present on the 15th and then again in May, at the hearing and then the budget meeting. Because it's what's going to end up right here, 24.45, but it could be, mill rate, the 24.44, and then it would show it underneath rounded to 24.5. So we've done that in the past, we've rounded up and we've rounded down to make it a little more of a whole number.
Now, I'll make one gratuitous comment. We can reduce taxes by cutting expenses, right? And we haven't put on the table tonight whether we think that this increase in about $2 million is too much, and should we go back over the budget and try to cut things? I don't think so. I mean, I think we were pretty frugal, and most of the increase is from Region 18. About 1.2 million, I think, is an increase in the Region 18 share of this. But I just wanted to confirm that we don't have an appetite to go back and try to save expenses.
I think you wait till the feedback you get at the public hearing.
Yep.
And that's what that period, that 1 month between the hearing and the actual vote is, that we can change the budget. If you get 100 people come out and say we need to spend more, or 100 people come out and say we need to spend less, then it's up to the Board of Finance as to.
And I think we can also kick that back to the people who are dealing with the departments individually and say, the Board of Finance says we have to take $500,000 out of the budget. Where do we recommend that they take it from?
Right.
Yep.
Well, that's what other towns do when they have the Board of
Right.
Education under their wing. They
Yep.
tell the Board of Education, you
Exactly.
gotta go cut $1 million.
Exactly.
You figure it
No,
out.
I think you guys probably have ideas on where you would tell people, we have to wait 5 years on this to get it approved this year.
I mean, it's very
I think-
hard to meaningfully move the budget with
It is.
cuts
It
from
is
the
incredibly
operating
difficult.
expenses for just the town. It's
Right.
like you're
Right,
gonna,
there isn't much there.
it's just gonna move it a tiny bit. You
It's
can't
right.
really
Yeah,
move the
exactly.
needle with those.
Right.
But the bigger projects are what drive the increases.
Right, but a lot of those are compulsory.
Right, exactly.
Anita just calculated the difference between 24.4 and 24.5.
Yeah.
It's $165,000.
Yeah, I did that.
So that's not even
That's your salary increase.
it's just.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the the mill rate of 0.1 covers that 65.
A little padding.
And hopefully, we will have a surplus in 24-25. Hopefully, this is a conservative budget, so that the future won't be as bleak as it looks right now. But, time will tell.
And maybe the schools will have a different scenario.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll work on
A little
that.
smoother.
Yeah, a smoother transition would be great.
Yeah, so I got the impression that the new administration were catching up on a lot of needed maintenance in this budget. So a lot of these increases aren't necessarily going to be carried forward to the
Well,
subsequent years, so you won't
I
have
think-
that pressure on the budget.
I think it's also,
Is
when
that
you
true?
come in, the budget starts July, and then you come in at the end of November, and you sort of catch up, and I've been rampantly looking at bills and saying, why, like today, I wrote to a department and said, you're supposed to be getting the government funding on this, the government pricing on this. Why are you paying full price? Because I know what it is from this side, so it's just a department that doesn't exist within this building. And they were like, oh, I didn't know. So I sent it off to Anita and said, you're going to need to talk to Anita. She'll get you on our town thing. But it's getting people, and we all do it at our homes, but it's getting them to realize that they can't just go to W.B. Mason or just go. You need to shop around because there's a better price out there. And I get kind of, I don't know, sometimes I feel like that chair that I'm sitting in Tim's chair, but I start to get What are you spending the money on?
Think that have been, like, open
No, you have to
they're not
think.
getting their money this year, which we've automatically done for 20 years. So there's big savings in areas like that, but it doesn't mean that's going away either.
Right. And I think the other thing that impacted this, on the salary side, we added some positions,
Yep,
and we changed some people from 30 to 35 hours.
true, that was the
That's
big
a
one.
10%,
Right.
12% bump right there
Yep.
on those individuals.
I mean, I'm new to this,
And
but I
that
had the
needed
impression
to be
that
done.
quite a few things got stepped up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To catch up with
Yeah.
things, which is
Yeah.
good. And that's not gonna happen every year.
Right.
No.
The town's portion of the budget went from this current year of 12.279, 12,280, to, in the next year, 12,945, or a $665,000 increase, 5.4%.
Yeah.
And it's what it is.
5%.
And we did
Okay.
cut out a lot of stuff.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Oh, let me confirm, I'm sure this is true, that the numbers that go into our budget is only new money. It doesn't include any of the expenditure, any of the stuff that we were gonna buy from an existing fund.
Everything this is new, it's
It's
totally
just a new
new.
one.
Yep.
Anything that is out there currently, that,
Right. Sometimes we replenish a fund, but if it was an excess fund, we just reduce it, and that doesn't go into the budget.
It's already been budgeted.
Yeah. Any further discussion of this real rate budget 24-25? Okay, then let's talk about, most of you were there last night and heard Barry's.
did you vote on your motion?
I was at Yale with my son doing his study, so I can't wait for this meeting to over like actually
Yes. So, Martha, to answer your question, we do not have a motion on the floor.
No, I know, you voted.
It was voted.
I forgot. I was just trying to
You vote.
make sure that I heard the vote.
So there's two, I mean, the threshold question with respect to, it's about $4 million that we're gonna need to put into the senior center, maybe 4.1, about $4 million. And the threshold question is, do we wanna take any of it from surplus, or do we wanna borrow it all? What do we think? I mean, my guess is that we're not gonna wanna take any of it from surplus, do you?
The 4-1, will we reduce that by the $500,000 grant?
You know, already been reduced.
It's been reduced from 4.6 to, okay, just making sure I got my math right.
Yeah, the total project is like 6.2 or 3.
Right, but Lime's portion brings it down to,
Well,
what, I'm saying on the old Lime side, what is our portion?
Assume the total budget is $6 million.
Mm-hmm.
75% is $4.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
Our $500,000 could bring it down to 4. We don't share their 500. We just get our.
No, but,
But don't we have to
Wait a
budget
minute.
the gross?
yep,
We do.
we do.
We have to budget, we don't have to borrow the gross.
But we have to
We
budget
have
the
to
entire
budget.
cost of the
Correct.
senior center, right?
Correct.
So BJ, to your original question, if I may, about borrowing, like if we can get a 2.7 like Griswold got for a
Right.
10-year bond, that's pretty cheap money.
That seems like a no-brainer.
The lady at the end of the table just placed some money at 5%. So I think we borrow as much as we can.
Yeah, there's an arbitrage. There's
Yeah,
an arbitrage
exactly.
here where if we can borrow at 2.7 and get 5%.
Until we can't, and that's fine.
no, you can't invest if you can't earn interest if you leave it in the bank. You're allowed to get
So
interest.
the sooner you put it in the bank, the faster you're earning interest.
And it's already,
Right now, we're at the 5%.
So we could borrow at 3.5 and get interest at 5.
We could
Right.
borrow at 2.7. That's what Griswold
Right.
did.
yeah.
That's like free money almost.
And Michael Batelio, our bonding agent, told us, Nita, when he was here talking to you and Matt and I at Ward, he said that a lot of these bonds are coming in with bonus numbers.
Correct.
And
you
they're-
still only get a premium.
Yeah. So they're giving you another $275,000 to take their bond, to take the offer. That's how interested they
Signing
are in
bonus.
signing bonus.
Yep.
Yeah. And so that's additional money that comes in, just so that, but just don't pay it off early. Just keep it going.
Right, and then also too, there's extra money after the project is done, and there's money in there from the interest earned or whatever, you just pay the first payment. You
Exactly,
can pay one of the payments
Maybe
from that money,
65,000.
exactly.
Yeah,
instead of taking it
from the budget.
from the,
Right.
because it is going to the senior center.
Exactly.
So PJ, I think the broader, like, I think borrowing money is the right move given the interest rates. I think the broader question is, do we want to, and we discussed this yesterday, aggregate a couple of the borrowing situations into a bigger number? I think that's kind of it.
Well, that's an interesting question. I'm reluctant to borrow anything from Region 18, right?
Right,
Whatever that is
That's-
now. And I'm hesitant to borrow anything based on Dave's numbers for the new projects right now, but that,
Agreed.
I'm just shooting from the seat of my pants. I'm not saying that's smart. I'm not having to figure about that.
well, the projects haven't been approved to fund yet, so even though it sounds prudent to only go to the trough once, predicting, we don't have a
Right.
glass ball to look at.
I mean, it also, part of the discussion last night was that there's some advantage to borrowing smaller amounts
Yeah,
over time.
definitely.
To just
Yep.
get things
You
down.
have flexibility
Yep.
to refinance whichever one you please whenever you want.
And I know Region 18 has done that, they've done refinances
Right.
in the past.
We did very well.
But, yeah,
We're
dropped it
refinancing.
significantly. So looking at those other projects, Matt, what might make sense to do is, all right, the senior center, that thing's rolling.
That's a given.
Get it done in one bond, and then look at these other three projects in the next
Put
6
them
months
together.
or something like that, and see if there's a way to, a need or a way to bundle those together, as opposed to having three more. I mean, it seems like at least Grassy Hill Road, with the money we've already got, the money we may get back from the state,
I should know tomorrow.
that could be something that may cost us $400,000 in additional. That may make sense to just
Hey,
pay it. Whereas the other two, bundling those together, for, even if it's a few $1 million or something like that, just to get us through this bubble in the next few years of
Yep.
Region 18, if they can't smooth that out. So,
At least we know we have the possibility to do that, and we're establishing a pattern with borrowing that seems to be looked on favorably if it's small portions spread over
and
time.
our debt goes away
Exactly.
in that timeframe. Our
Right.
town debt
How many
basically
years out do we
disappears.
have, like 5?
Yeah, but the majority of it goes away in 3 years, I
Right,
think.
so
Right.
it's,
It goes
and
down
timing on these projects
significantly.
would take that long anyway.
Yeah, and if you just look at Dave's number, again, very rough justice, he applies the 3.9 in surplus.
Right.
Yep,
And comes up with a borrowing need of 5.6, which we think is inflated. If we bond 4 million, that leaves a net of only 1.6.
right,
So,
For now.
you know, we may not need to borrow that much more to get these projects done.
But the things
If
you
we
have
take
that might,
it out of surplus.
Yeah.
you know, we're made aware by the fire department, who buys big stuff, that their prices have gone up significantly.
right,
And we may not, you know, with what we're putting in the fire equipment
not be enough.
apparatus fund, may not be enough. And that's gonna happen right around the same time the school, that truck is gonna be right around the same time, the bubble in the Region 18 number is. And we might have to kick extra money into that. I mean,
What's our total now? It's 900? We have 975 close, and we budgeted this year to add another 175 into it?
we have 929.
Yep, and we asked to budget this one year for 175, correct? We've upped it.
1.1.
Yeah, but they're talking 1.5, 1.6.
I know that, and the other concern I have is, why aren't we locking into a price and putting a deposit on something that's gonna take 48 months to deliver anyway?
I think they just found that out when they started the apparatus committee working on it. They didn't realize that it was, usually it's more like a year. In the past, it's been a year. I don't think they
Things have
realized it
been
was going to be
changing.
48 months.
Right, but I just hate to,
But maybe we can now.
if we can lock in a rate, and, because otherwise in 4 years when they go to place it,
It's gonna be $2 million.
what will be the delivery date at that point in time, and what will be the rate?
I think they're working on building it now. They're looking at the options
Okay,
so they can put it out.
And
I
then
think
get,
that's
and then, okay,
what Dave Jewett said.
because when we had talked at that dinner, they said that they were gonna, Steve Super said he was gonna have numbers for me this year, but I don't think, I mean, before.
But they have to build, they have to figure out, all right, what do we want for a pump, what do we want for
Right.
this? Or it's not a pump truck, I don't think.
like a builder there.
Does anybody know, out of curiosity, what are the mill rates in East Lyme and Old Saybrook?
As far as, oh, much higher.
Yeah.
Much higher.
Plus, we have to look at when people have had their assessment.
Yeah, depends on the price.
Lyme just had theirs,
exactly.
and some of those properties that aren't on the water went
Well,
up
and
30%.
I think all of our assessments are gonna go up, right? with the
Absolutely.
new, rebound.
Yep.
Okay.
But in
so
terms
back-
in terms of mill rate increases in surrounding towns, what we're doing is in the neighborhood where I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's another line of defense for us.
Yeah.
You know, we're not.
Yeah.
Well, we've had,
You know, nobody wants to pay more, but it's a fact of life. If we want to maintain our services.
but we also didn't have an increase last year
Right.
at all. So I
Oh,
think one,
and the year before you didn't either.
no, it was a tiny bit, maybe a fraction. Yeah,
East Lyme was 24.88.
yeah,
This
so
year?
we're,
Last year, like this,
This current-
23,
that's what,
24.
I don't, I think it's
And what is-
defendable, and it's not out of line.
And they're going up, probably, but they're both reasonable.
Most of the headlines have been 4.5%,
Yeah.
5%.
Yeah.
I've seen in the paper.
Yeah.
And you said East Lyme was 24.88?
Yes. Old Saybrook is 20.46.
20.46?
They have a lot of more commercial base, we have no,
Yeah.
we've got Zippo.
Yeah, and don't compare us to Lyme.
No, that doesn't count. No.
All right, let's get back to the financing of the senior center. I think we've agreed not to take money from surplus.
Just a quick question, because it's been mentioned about private fundraising. I'm sure that's probably not a huge amount, but is that going to happen?
It is.
And how much can we expect from that?
I'm expecting $3 million.
See, set the bar high, I love it.
Bring your checkbooks to the next Board of Finance meeting.
Well, that's awesome, that's great.
That's a good way not to have anyone show up.
If you're not at a meeting, you have to give a contribution to the senior fund.
Little blackmail.
The fundraising team firmly believes that we should not ask for fundraising until we put a shovel into the ground.
Yeah.
It's kind of, to just say, oh yeah, we're doing this, but people have to see that it's coming. So get the construction trucks there, get the things in, let's do things. And then we have a plan to meet with some people, key people, that BJ and I and Alan and David Lum, we're going to take some people out to lunch and
Pick their pockets.
and we're going to put those,
So the
I mean, that
answer
takes a little pressure
to
off
your
us, right?
question is, we have no idea.
Okay.
We think it'll be material from significant donors. I mean, folks who just want to give $5, $10, $20. It's nice, but it doesn't add up to a lot. But we think there'll be some significant donors. How much, I don't know.
And then-
Is it gonna be
and then we're
$1 million?
gonna-
And
Probably
that,
not.
the motion was made at one of our meetings that any fundraising efforts, anything we take in will be used to pay down the debt.
right, so
Not for new
anything that we get
toys.
from Old Lyme residents or anyone who wants to contribute to the Old Lyme side,
Mhm.
we get to apply to our portion. They get to apply to theirs. Any corporate sponsorships that we reach out to together, we split 50-50.
Mhm.
And there was one other type of fundraising that David Lum and I talked about to be determined, but that was also a share.
But if your question implicitly is, well, if we're going to raise a bunch of money for fundraising, do we want to borrow $4 million? And my
Yes.
answer to that is, it'll be terrific if the $4 million is excess, and we
Right.
can put it into our reserve fund for the next year and the next year after that. In other words, our needs down the road
Like a
are
fire
so
truck.
substantial that it's going to be.
Okay.
Does the 5.4 million on this little worksheet include whatever grant state money they got for the senior center?
Hold on one second.
That's what I was asking before.
What are you looking at?
I don't.
Well, there's just this worksheet right here, just indicate, that includes the 5.4, but I'm pretty sure they get a pretty substantial grant from the state. Isn't that-
Each town got 500,000.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's just a steep grant.
Yeah.
Right, but does that drop it
This
to
is-
4.4?
No, this is,
So that's in addition?
yeah, so the total is close to 6.4.
Okay.
He's off a little bit, maybe it's 6.2.
Yeah, but it doesn't include that $1 million.
Right. But I think the question I thought you were going to ask, which is a good question, are there other monies we can get from the state?
They've been trying really
Yeah,
hard.
this is
yeah.
what they're offering for this year.
I mean, that's a steep grant.
Yeah.
It's relatively easy, but I think they are looking for.
They're still working on other grants, and they've been working diligently for the last year and a
I'm on
half.
the board at the Y,
Mhm,
and they're
yep.
sort of on the same track.
Yep.
And we feel like we're getting some traction.
Well,
So-
talk to Jerry Baker and Ellen
I talked to her
Shana.
today, and she said she's looking,
Yeah,
they're looking at a whole bunch of things.
So,
they're in the works.
procedurally, do we need to make a motion about moving forward with not using surplus and borrowing, or is that just sort of it move forward?
We made the motion that we're not going to use surplus, so we've got to raise through taxes enough money to satisfy the budget.
They're looking for.
Right.
No, I'm talking about
the bond.
I'm talking about the senior center, is the borrowing process require us to make a decision, or is it done by the
The
selectmen?
town, we have,
Well, I would think that the boards of selectmen and finance should agree on how to finance it. But it's a good question for Andy to know the answer. Do we need a town meeting to authorize us to go out and get bonds?
No,
they approved the project already.
They approved the
It's up to
overall
us to
budget.
figure out how to pay for it.
Board of
Right.
Selectmen, Board of Finance, figure out how to pay for it.
Right.
And so historically, we haven't sought town meeting approval for bonding.
No.
No,
Okay.
they said, here, do it, you guys figure out how to pay for it. And of course, it'd be nice if both boards agreed, which it sounds like we are.
So I think we do need a vote.
I thought you were taking your
So
shirt
we've
off.
made a decision.
But we don't need it
Then they're on their way.
necessarily right now.
No, we don't need it tonight, but
Right.
the clock is ticking.
Well, they said it would take, 3
3
months?
months.
So, again, if we want to have it available in July,
Well, the money's there. I mean, we do have the money.
We can cover until it's approved.
right.
Float.
We're
Yeah.
missing the thing.
Yeah, but also too, if you just
You're in
vote on
agreement,
it,
fine,
then you can
you
move
can afford
forward
it.
with.
Oh, my own, Jim.
As adoption and,
I think it'd be a
It's
no-brainer.
really up to them.
Right, but
So, to
As long as
push the
we all
discussion
agree.
around, I'm just gonna throw out, I would recommend that we borrow 4 million. I'm kind of ambivalent about 15 years or 20 years.
well, I think we look at the chart.
Really, what's our best, where we're
Yeah.
gonna get the best rate?
Yeah.
I mean, if we're gonna get a better rate for 20 or a better rate for 15.
I think it should.
I think we asked them to figure it out
out.
both ways, because my understanding is,
And then to do the printout of,
I'm just gonna tell
What
you,
the
it's my
actual
first
cost is.
rodeo, but my understanding is I talked to Barry, I tell him what we want, he figures it
advises
out,
us.
he works it out with Michael Patelio, and they figure out, come up with the best bonding position for us.
that's
So
what
the
they're getting
decision
paid
we
for.
need to make is we want to bond $4 million and we want information on what the options are.
Absolutely.
Well, then maybe we don't need a vote tonight.
No,
We need a direction to you to go out and have them find out and come back to us with a proposal.
Great.
And we'll approve the
To
proposal.
find out
Sure,
what
sounds
the
good.
real interest rate is. Are we gonna be lucky like Griswold?
right. Well, we're good, we're not a high risk.
3.45,
Well, and he said Griswold was a AA rating.
Yeah, and we're triple.
and we're triple.
Yeah.
Plus, we are showing them there's future business if they want to play ball with us.
Okay?
So I will reach out to Barry tomorrow, but I'll also make sure that Michael is also on the email, say that we're thinking, this is where we're thinking, let's go.
Okay.
Should we get the borrowing for 10 or 15 years? I mean, he talked about,
Well,
We can get ready for 3.
we can ask for the information for both.
Do you want 10, 15, 20?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Doesn't hurt.
Like,
It's all gonna come in one
36,
document.
48, or 60, right? What do you want? We'll get it out. I'll
We
see
should
what
have done
they.
this a few years ago when it was 0%.
Yeah, we should
Well,
have.
a few years ago with the pandemic and everybody was super cautious.
5% interest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wish I knew now what I knew then, or then what I know now.
You know? We don't need the-
What is it?
So it's the end of the meeting.
On the agenda,
Contingency.
for the sequence is the word, so we've done mill rate calculation, we've done the discussion, we called it to order. We can wrap up as soon as we're
Wow.
done, but then it says contingency, and I don't know what that means. Anybody have any contingencies they want to discuss?
I think that was always on your,
It's
because
on the
Michelle,
main agenda.
Michelle literally
That we
takes last
post.
year's agendas and just chops them up and puts them
Right.
back into
Right,
the.
right.
I thought you created it today, PJ.
Right. In the past, when they say contingencies, they normally, that's when someone comes forward and says, well, you know, we got a last minute project.
Yeah.
We want to do 55,000 and can we add it to the budget? So
We
that's-
may hear that after our
We're gonna
public.
get that a lot after.
Right,
hearing.
and that's
Yeah.
normally what happens with a contingency, I
Mhm.
don't know if it's correct
Yeah.
here.
Yep,
No, it's-
okay.
It's something on the left field.
Okay.
Yep, thank
Anything
you.
else, anybody? Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Wow.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Fred?
Second.
Matt? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 8:09.
Nice work.
Still